Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to have a bit of a discussion today. It's time for us to have a bit of a conversation, and that is, of course, going to be about possibly the most unnecessary and, well, unpullable banner that we've had in the history of the game, ladies and gentlemen. And I just want to take some of the time over here to talk about why I'm so confused by what's going on over here, and of course, give all the reasons for why every player should avoid this thing like the goddamn plague. And the one big reason that I'll give you all for why you shouldn't pull Cartethyia is because she got power crept. Not necessarily through damage though, but through her design. So we're gonna be talking all about that today. So without further ado, let's get ourselves started over here by just talking about, well, what's actually happening. So Cartethyia is up for a rerun, ladies and gentlemen, in kind of like, not really the first half or the second half of this version, but kind of like a week into it. And what the banner schedule is going to be looking like is it'll be Lucilla as the main banner, then it'll be Cartethyia over here as the rerun, and then the Cyberpunk characters for the rest of the patch. That's what we're slated for. And well, you might be wondering, well, Saint, that just sounds pretty normal. They had to work within the confines of a 30-day patch. They're still giving you a good amount of time to pull for Cart. So what's the problem? The problem is, ladies and gentlemen, this is probably one of the worst pulls you can make in the history of the game, at least right now in this patch. And it's also bad for new players, and it's also a complete bait. And the reason for this is very simple. Cartethyia is a unit that comes with a discount, but then also a premium. And this is why. If you don't have Cartethyia's weapon in, like, the big 2026, your shit is basically just kind of cooked when it comes to clearing, based off the fact that she doesn't have any real good alternative because she's an HP scaler. And so if you don't have her weapon, you're kind of fucked over there, but you're also additionally fucked if you don't have Chacona. You either need a Chacona on your team, or you need, like, S3 Cartethyia. One or the other. That's a bit rough, right? That's a little bit expensive. And she makes up for that, right? By being a bit of a discount over here, at least on the support side, where you could just put in Arrow Rover instead in her third slot and get the team going, and not necessarily need that third 5-star teammate. But then you have to play Arrow Rover, and then you can't play any of the other versions of Rover. So that's something to think about as well. So most people, right, kind of have gone with the assumption, well, you could just pull the full premium team, right? And Saint, there's a good likelihood, right, that people have a Chisa. And so isn't Cart just a good option to pull? Because Chisa is going to be in the game, guys, and they're likely going to have her on the account, and they just need to pull Chacona. Well, this is the thing, guys. The last two negative status characters that we've had, DPSs, Hiyuki and the Imith. Here's a fact about Hiyuki and Imith. If you don't have Lucilla, Hiyuki's still good. If you don't have Denya, Imith is still good. You can just use her with, like, a Linné. And if you don't have Linné or Denya, then you can use a Lupa too. If you don't have any of those three, then it's like, okay, great. Like, what do you want me to fucking work with here? Like, I'm not fucking Houdini, bro. Right? I've already given you three options. They all have other teammates that they can work with, that they can perform on. Cartethyia kind of, like, doesn't. If you have, like, Chisa and her, you can try out Arrow Rover, but it's not really clearing content, and you really do end up wanting Cart. But isn't this just kind of, like, cooked, though? That the other teammate that you need isn't rerunning with her. And you don't know when Chacona's gonna rerun. The end result is that somebody that maybe pulled a Chisa in the last update to go with their Hiyuki, or to go with their Denya, or to go with their Imith, might be thinking, oh, if I just pull Cart over here, then I'll have one piece of the premium Era Erosion team. Woohoo! They say it might be the last rerun. Proof? I think today's your last day on Earth. We both don't have proof, bro. Who the fuck decided that? What the fuck? Who the fuck decided this might be her last rerun? You might be retarded. What do you mean might be? What the fuck? Anyways, I don't even know. I don't know who the fuck is saying retarded shit like that. It might be. Bro, you might have cancer. Bro, what kind? It might be anything. The point of the matter is, this banner's a bait. Regardless of where you are in the situation. Because even if you're somebody that's planning on filling out this team, building an Aero Erosion team, and you're planning on actually pulling Chakona in the future, right? And you're planning on pulling Chakona in the future, you're just going to have like a brick on your account until you actually pull that character. And then with that brick on your account, that team that you end up finishing with Chakona and Cart, it's actually comparable to, or worse than, the actual Aero team that we have right now with Sagrika and Chuyan. Or really, Lucilla and Sagrika and stuff like that. And guess what? Lucilla and Chuyan, the teammates that Sagrika needs, right? One of those two, much like how Cart needs Chakona, Sagrika or Lucilla and Chuyan are way more multi-use, are way more friendly for your account, way more variable, and way more valuable than Chakona is. That's just a fact. Lucilla and Chuyan are just both better. And they need to be on Sagrika's team like how Chakona needs to be on Cartethyia's. So if you were to pull two characters that need each other, you'd rather have these two together or these two together in every situation as opposed to these two together. Because the net add isn't really that good in any like meta sense at all. And that's just kind of like the sad reality of what's going on here, guys. And that's just kind of like the truth regarding Cartethyia's current place. Right now, her kit design was negative statuses while they were in the middle of beta testing. And if Cartethyia was more like an Imith or a Hiyuki, I wouldn't be saying this. Hiyuki, for example, is a negative status unit done right. She's only got one mode, but she's still able to function without her best-in-slot Glacio Chafe applier. She works so well with a Lene, the teams can actually be comparable in some forms of content, depending on your stat investment, right? And when that's the case, where you have so much more freedom of teammates, right? To be able to play who you want, to be able to access whatever buffs you want and stuff like that, she just feels like such a more modern character with less hoops to jump through, but then still has like the same sort of like feel that this unit was supposed to have. And she just feels like a negative status done properly, while this one, it's better than Zani. She's better than Zani for sure, but she still feels like a beta version of negative statuses. Imith definitely takes it up even higher by just having a separate mode. Her Fusion Burst mode is dog shit, though, without Denya, so don't even think about that. And then Hiyuki's like the final edition of negative statuses, where it's the same mode, and then you can just switch the teammate. And then, like, one team is doing way more chafe damage, the other team's dealing way more rod damage, and then it just works out from there. Those are the types of units that you should be prioritizing more, with more teammates, with more degrees of success, rather than only two teams in the fucking game, where both of them require her signature. One of them feels like shit to play and locks you out of Rover. The other one, well, locks you out of Chisa and using her in other places. Because this is also the other reality, guys. You've got one Chisa and 3 negative status teams that she works in. The Cart one, the Denya Imith one, and the Hiyuki, what's it called? And then the Hiyuki Lucilla or Lene one. And you want to know what the reality is, guys? The Hiyuki and the Imith teams are so much fucking better than the Cart ones in both forms of content, TOA and Whimpering Waves. Both of them are just straight up better, to the point where if you're using Chisa with Cart in any situation, it's because you don't have Hiyuki, or you don't have Imith, or you're just griefing. That's just kind of like it. Playing Cart with Chisa after this version, you're kind of just griefing. And it's not like you really have any other great alternatives. If you want an Aero team, it's better to pull Lucilla and Sagrika. If you want a negative status team to make use of Chisa, it's better to pull Imith, or it's better to pull Hiyuki. And if you're just looking for like a team that's just better in general to play, I mean, let's be honest here, guys. Cart and Chakona isn't... I'm not going to go ahead and tell you it's like the peak of gameplay. Chakona's actually like a hard unit to play. This team actually has like a higher skill cap too. Because it's like the rotations on these characters aren't like as cookie cutter easy as some of the 3.x units as well. So it's even got that as a barrier too. And in the present day, right, all things considered, this is probably one of the most skippable teams in the history of the game. Some people can have a lot of fun with it, quick swapping and stuff like that, so on and so forth. And if that's what you're into, go for it. Because this team, when quick swapped, especially with like a Chisa, right, is able to reach levels that are extremely comparable to other meta teams in the game. And at a baseline, it'll still clear. So that's possible as well. However, this team also does the same thing where if you quick swap with Imith, Denya, and Chisa, you'll do better than the Cart team. So yeah, if you quick swap with Denya and Imith, you do better than Cart inner quick swap team. So even with like the whole like sweaty mindset, you still even have a better choice. So sweaty players have a better option. Arrow players have a better option. Negative status enjoyers have better options. Cart is essentially the biggest loser in every single situation for any type of like what a player could have. And so the only real reason for anybody when it comes to like what they're pulling a character for, what type of enjoyment, the only reason to actually pull for Cart in the present day is if you like really like her gameplay and like her kit in particular, and like that's what you want to be seeing on your screen all the time, or you just really like her character, and that's pretty much it. Because her best in slot teammate is nice to have on your account, but is nowhere close to as valuable as other characters. Her actual negative status use of Chisa is dog shit, and she has better options everywhere else. I mean, I don't really know what else to say. And when her best in slot support, and guys, I all said this under the context of you already having Chacona. Like the past fucking 8 minutes I've been talking is under the context that you have Chacona. And there are going to be a lot of people that are starting the game new, starting the game fresh, don't have Chacona. And if you're a new player and you pull on this shit, you will have just bricked your account. I'm not joking. If you're a new player, you don't have Chacona on your account, and you could have pulled Lucilla, or you could have saved for Yang Yang or Sui Sui, and you pulled this fucking brick instead, without Chacona on banner, bro, I would actually suggest re-rolling. Like, I would actually suggest re-rolling. Because all those critiques that I made about her meta relevance is under the assumption that you have her required mandatory teammate. And if you don't have Chacona and you're trying to make this unit work, re-roll. Actually, just re-roll, bro. Like, you have one of the most useless things you could possibly, like, use in Wuthering Waves. I think I'd rather have... But I'm trying to think of, like, who's, like, really bad. I'd rather have a Cantarella than a Cartethyia. Yeah, I think that's a good one. I'd rather have a Cantarella than a Cartethyia. Yeah, because then my Frolova would have a permanent teammate. I use Cantarella more than Cartethyia. No, I'm sorry. Cantarella's actually in one of my top used units, because I use her every Weewa reset. I either use her with a Lucilla or a Chu Yan every reset. I'm sorry. I play her. She's one of my most consistently played units. I don't remember the last time I non-sarcastically played this character. Like, straight up. I don't even remember the last time I legitimately... I think I might have played her more recently. And likely, you're all in a very similar position to me. A very similar position to me if you pulled any of some of the new units. Because after I pulled Hiyuki, and after I pulled Hiyuki, I don't think I want to go back to this dog shit arrow erosion negative status bullshit. In a lot of ways, Hiyuki has kind of ruined other negative statuses for me. Because they now have this unit that functions with or without them. And it's just like, why would I want to play a character that doesn't function without them, when I now have this unit that does both? And that's, I think, the biggest power creep that's been brought to the game. I don't even think Cartethyia got power crept because of like damage. I think she got power crept through kit design. And that's probably the biggest reason for why every person, no matter where you are, you should skip her. So yeah, that's our little breakdown for today. Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.